when you take a conscious breath in, it turns into energy.
Mm-hmm.
So you might feel energy in the body.
Hello and welcome to the Business of Happiness podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Taryn McCarthy, and today is going to be such a good day. I'm so excited. I've been counting down the days and so from my childhood, I say I've been counting down the sleeps. So I've literally been counting down the sleepies to this day. I can't wait for you to meet this incredible guest that I have to grace you with today. And I just want to say thank you so much for joining me on my last episode when we talked about shame and the power behind understanding and harnessing the incredible gifts that can be found when we look into shame and vulnerability. Next time, I'm excited to talk to you about confidence. Let's do a 180 and talk about how to really own our confidence. But today, this incredible special guest, she is a breathwork teacher, a yoga instructor, a spiritual coach who has her training so multifaceted in Neuro Linguistic Programming, mental and emotional release. I can't wait for you to meet her. She is the most wonderful. Now here we go. I'm going to say her name in the most authentic way. This is Marlize Joubert.
Oh my goodness, I haven't heard that in so long.
I love it. Marlize, how do we say your name in America?
Oh my goodness, Marlize.
I love it. Marlize, welcome. I'm so happy to have you.
Much. Oh goodness, I'm so excited to be here too. It's like I'm just full of giggles right now.
It's so good. It's so good. I am so excited for my audience to know you. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Give us a little bit of the background of who you are.
Absolutely. Yeah. So let's see, I moved from South Africa. I was traveling back and forth, kind of like to America and back to South Africa after high school. I kind of just want to get out of there. I just want to get out of my home, like as far away as I could, just to travel the world and kind of like in search of myself. Traveling back and forth, working in yachts for like a few years, and eventually made myself out all the way to Los Angeles around the year 2000, kind of chasing after a boy.
I know that story.
It was actually pretty good. It lasted for about 6 years, which I think is pretty impressive in my 20s because I changed so much. I was going through all these major internal changes and confusions of like who I am, where am I going, where do I want to be, who am I, kind of in search of myself. And through all my different searches and wanderings around, I eventually stumbled upon yoga. I've been practicing yoga for like 15 or 16 years now. Kind of took a little break from it in the last year. I kind of felt a little saturated, I kind of stepped away from it and did something very different. I went to take some boxing classes.
Wow, that is a different turn from yoga. I love that.
Bring in a spirituality into the boxing,
Wow.
Anyway, and then I stumbled upon breathwork and all kinds of other modalities. And yeah, here I am.
That's fascinating. That's so fascinating. What did you think that yoga would bring to you versus what it did bring to you in your life?
Ooh, what a good question. Gosh. I remember looking at the teachers walking around and seeing them being in their power and sharing themselves from such a beautiful heart place. And I wanted to be that. I wanted to be that person that shares wisdom and information with other people. It just felt like the right thing for me, but I was so scared. I didn't know if I could actually do it. And as I began my journey, I really discovered so much more about myself. I learned that I'm actually really good at what I do. There's like something that in a way kind of moves through me that's not really me when I really choose to channel from my heart. And yeah, I feel like I found myself, like I found my voice.
Mm.
I recognize and realize that there's really something that I do have to offer,
Mm.
that is also my birthright,
Mm.
that I don't have to just be a follower. It helped me to feel more grounded in my body,
Mm.
to feel my feet on the earth. I learned how to breathe differently.
Mm.
I learned how to be more present. And I think taking up more space too, so the world can kind of begin to see me a little bit more than kind of hiding away.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, it
It's
was a big transformation though. It's still in process.
yes, and there's so much in there that I can hear. One thing that I want to touch on is when you mentioned coming back into your body
Uh-huh.
and recognizing and feeling and owning your body again. I think in this day and age, so many of us are living in our heads predominantly and not really
Mm-hmm.
knowing how to do that. How do
Mm-hmm.
you guide your clients to become more in touch with their body?
Mm-hmm. Beautiful question. Um, I love to use sensation, you know. I would tell people to put their feet on the floor, whether they're standing or sitting down, and receiving the earth. So when we receive it, it's more of a feminine quality, than a masculine, and it's not gender specific. Um, Receiving is more energy coming in, and giving is more of an energy going out, which is the giving is more masculine. And so having your feet on the earth and almost feel like your feet become the earth. So it's almost like they expand and they get bigger and flatter and wider, like a big, like, I don't know, a flipper or something, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
And then also have lungs right there underneath the soles of your feet. And then
Mm.
as you begin to breathe, you breathe from that part of your body all the way up to your chest, the crown of your head and beyond.
Mm.
And then as you exhale, the energy kind of moves all the way down into your feet and into the earth again. So the inhale pulls it all the way up, the exhale pull it down. And literally just take in 4 or 5 of those breaths. You're like, whoa. All the energy from the mind now begins to drop down to the feet, because where our energy goes, where attention goes, energy goes. So if you're always in the mind and thinking, which we, as humans, we do, I guess it's a birthright in some way, but we disconnect from the rest of ourselves. So we live from our head up, from our neck up. And so when we bring awareness down from thinking to like, oh, where's my feet?
Mm.
And let's breathe from that place. Then we bring the awareness down to the earth. And that's also where we begin to ground, because our focus is down there. And it's such a simple thing to do, yet it's
Mm.
super profound. And it's almost like, because it's so simple, your mind's like, I don't know if that's going to really work, So practice makes perfect.
It's so beautiful too, because I think also we tend to live very separate lives from everybody else. And this almost seems like a connector. I'm imagining down there under the soil, the roots kind of feeding each other and supporting each other, and another dimension of connectedness between all of us as well. And, as you were mentioning, kind of up through your through the top of your head out into the universe, and kind of finding that sameness and that oneness with everybody else too. I love that.
Thank you so much. Yeah, because there is a connection between we have 7 major chakras in our body, and chakras is like energy centers that spin clockwise. And you have your 7th one is at the top of your head, your crown. And then you have your first one that's in your root chakra, which is kind of the bottom of your torso.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's actually a connection from the top and also to the bottom. So there's a complete circle as well. And the root chakra that's in the bottom of your torso is actually the way that your feet actually represents that chakra specifically. So there is like a complete circle from your feet all the way to the crown of your head and beyond. So they're talking about connection, because the circle is like never ending and never beginning. There's a completeness and wholeness.
Oh, so beautiful.
Mm.
Many of my audience members, this might be something completely new to them, and, something that they've never even been gifted with the opportunity to learn about. How would you advise somebody who would love to learn more about this and kind of dip their toe in a little bit, how do we get started understanding this new language that you're introducing us to?
What a good question as well. Gosh, to be quite honest with you, a lot of what I learned was sitting in circle with my teacher, my breathwork teacher, David Elliott. There are some books out there. For me, I kind of learn better by actually either visualizing it or kind of being in the classroom and practicing it. And so with my teacher, when I met him in 2010, his name is David Elliott. He's my breathwork teacher. What we used to do is we would just practice awareness, sitting in circle. It's like, what am I feeling? And what part of my body, is closed and open, and different sensations, and studying group energy and things like that. So most of the stuff I really learned in class. So I don't know how to fully answer that question for you as to where to learn it. What I can tell you though is that I have written some trainings.
Oh, yes.
And if you are interested, I have 3 modules. The first module, we go through all the different chakras of the body. So we can talk about that maybe at the end of today's session. But we go through all the different chakras and the colors and what they represent and where to find them in the body. And when they're in alignment, what does that mean? When they're out of alignment, what does that mean? It's like an energy vortex. And everyone represents, like the bottom, the root chakra represents, the first one represents groundedness, in a sense of safety and calm. For us to live in our body instead of checked out or, ungrounded, because we are, humans. And even the fact that we are spiritual beings, we need to have a human experience to evolve spiritually. So learning how to be in our body, to be grounded, to be seen, and to be open, and to earn a living. The root chakra, when it's out of balance, is about survival, illusions, fear, not trusting, not feeling safe, being out of your body. So that's just like one example of like one of the chakras, kind of what it represents.
Oh, that's fascinating. I know we're going to, at the end of this interview, I'm going to let people know how to find you. But if anyone's listening right now and thinking, I just want to be able to find these training modules, where are they, Marlize? Are they on your website?
They're on my website, yeah. So it's just my first and last name.com, Marlize or Z-E.
Z-E.
JOUBERT.com. So under the tab, breathwork trainings, you can find the different modules in there. So, and most of them right now is virtual. I do, depending on the size of the group, I can have some people in person, just a few, but right now most of them is virtual, and it's in Santa Monica.
Wonderful. Thank you. I want to touch upon, because you mentioned it, your breath work, and just help us understand, what is breath work? How is that different from meditation, from yoga? What is breath work specifically? Or are they all intertwined in terms of their strengths?
Yeah, breath work. So many different types of breath work. If we just talk about breath work as well, like, so when you look at the yoga lineage, the breath work is called pranayama in Sanskrit. So prana means life extension. Yama means, prana means life force or energy, and yama means to extend or to control. So you're extending your life force, or you're controlling. So when you do certain practices with the breath, you're controlling your breath by extending it longer or shorter, or holding it and stuff like that. So that's one modality. Most of the yoga lineage, the breath is specifically through the nose, in and out through the nose. The reason why yoga lineage is doing that is because they want you to cultivate energy and not deplete or exhaling it out and leaving it out of your body. So it's a cultivating energy. So the energy, the prana, life force, gets stronger within the body. So it's kind of like, so when you do the specific style that I teach, and honestly, we just call it breath work. My teacher didn't really want to brand it. He didn't want to make it about him, so he's teaching the work and then let people go and like be their own teachers around it. It's a circular breath. There's another modality that has the same technique. but moves a lot faster and kind of get you out of your body and hyperventilate. That's also not what I teach, even though it looks the same. So I'd like to give the distinction. It's called holotropic breath.
Oh.
So, but then specifically the style that I teach, this breath, you take it all through your mouth. So it's the inhale and an exhale through the mouth. The inhale is broken up in 2 sections. The reason for this one is because of the cleansing and a healing breath. So if you think about it, when we take a breath, it turns into energy and it sustains us. So without a breath, we won't exist. So when we take these conscious breaths into the body, we can recreate, we can cleanse, we can bring new life into our body. And a belief system that I have is that everything is made up of energy. So think about all the traumas, and unprocessed, emotions and limiting beliefs that we carry because we do, from childhood and beyond. Before that, so the age of like 4 or 5, you have an experience that's so traumatic that you cannot process those emotions because they're simply just too big. You're not ready for it. You can't. So the body stores it. And that turns into energy. And it sits kind of in the subconscious or the unconscious. And that's also the area where all the chakras are. And then as you get older, more resilient, stronger, ready to deal with these things, you're going to attract experiences into your life that is going to begin to activate those old wounds for you that are similar to something from the past. And then as they get activated, they come up. And that's when you be like, whoa, why is this stuff coming up now? I'm age 40, 50, whatever it is. But that's when you go seek for breath work or meditation or a healer or a therapy. And then the stuff starts to clear out. And so what the breath is doing is it speeds up that process of clearing it out. So instead of you having to attract all these, say, abusive people, it's disrespectful towards you because when you were 5 years old, your parents were disrespectful to you. So meeting all these people over and over again, you do a breathwork practice. And breath that turns into energy goes into the body, into the subconscious, and begin to push all that stuff out of your body. And then it can't attract it anymore because it doesn't exist in your body. And then on top of that, with the breath that I teach, there's 2 breaths, 2 inhales and 1 exhale. The second inhale goes into the upper chest, the heart. And so when the heart chakra starts to open, you begin to listen and live from a place of here instead of the lower chakras, which is the trauma. So you don't attract from trauma, but you attract from love.
Wow.
And as the heart opens, there's a sense of intuition that comes through and creativity. And just being in flow. So anyway, I can talk about it forever.
Oh, that sounds so beautiful.
Yeah.
Would you be able to show us, can you demonstrate for us a little bit or guide us through a little mini session of how you'd introduce this breathwork technique?
Sure, I would absolutely do that. The only thing that I would say with you and I is the actual session is being done laying down on our backs, but we can do it seated if you like.
Interesting.
And then anybody else that wants to join in right in this moment can totally do it on their backs if that works.
Cool.
Okay, cool. So I'll talk just a moment longer about it so people can have a little bit of an understanding of what they might experience around
Please.
it. So as I mentioned, when you take a conscious breath in, it turns into energy. So you might feel energy in the body. A breath session, if you have time for it, it's a good amount of time for it, can be up to 30 minutes. The least amount of time you want to do it is 10 minutes because most of the energy starts to move and shift and open around the 7-8 minute mark. So just know if you guys want to do this on your own later on, at least 10 minutes active breath and then moving into that rest breath. You can have fun rhythmic music to it, rock music, whatever you want. It's not a quiet meditation whatsoever.
Wow, that's not what I would have expected. It's fascinating. Okay.
It's kind of because if I can explain it to you like this, your mind, sometimes when we have a quiet meditation, we go sit down and do a quiet meditation. Sometimes your mind gets so active because your mind loves to be busy. Your mind wants to be busy because that's just its job. The minute the mind quiets down, it dies. It doesn't exist. And it's scary for most of us because we associate ourselves with our minds. And so when a mind begins to quiet, it feels like we're dying or we're losing control. That's why meditation feels so scary for most humans. So what the breath is doing is, because it's an active process, it gives the mind something to do that's active.
Wow.
And even the music. So we're bypassing the fear of the mind while the body starts to open energetically and have this energetic process. So yeah, sometimes emotions can clear through the body. As you know, that things are stuck in the body and the subconscious. The mouth can get a little dry in the beginning because we're breathing through the mouth. And yeah, I think that's good. So I'm going to show you how to do it. So all through the mouth. My kitty is
I know.
playing around here. I was like,
I love it. I noticed that beautiful
this.
furry tail coming by the screen every now and then.
She's a little cuddle bug.
Yeah. All
So
right.
I'm going to do this with you guys. So go ahead and place one, if you can see, one hand on your belly, one hand on your heart. Okay, so it's the lower belly, upper chest. See, a little space here. So the breath is all through your mouth. So you're going to take a fast, strong breath in, a fast, strong breath in, and you're going to push a fast one out. Okay. And so the first breath goes into the lower belly. The second one goes into the chest.
Okay.
And you push one exhale out. So it's a half an inhale, exhale. Looks like this. So let's do a few rounds together. Inhale belly, inhale chest, exhale. Beautiful. Good. Good, Tyron. That looks really good.
Thank you.
Yeah. And so that's it. I don't know if you'd like to go longer or are you good?
That's great because I can feel getting into the rhythm. So I think I could take this on into my outside world here and practice it. What are some of the things that we should be feeling? You mentioned you might notice a dry mouth, and you also mentioned that there might be some emotions stirring. So tell us a little bit more about, if we leave you here and go and practice this on our own without your guidance, what should we be prepared for?
Absolutely. That's such a good question. So one of the goals of breathwork is to open the heart. And that's the second breath. And so when the heart starts to open up and there is my kitty cat, hold on, go there. She loves meditation. So when the heart starts to open up and we decided unconsciously, consciously, aware of it, not aware of it, decided to push some sadness away or some anger away or some grief away in some part of our life, which we all have, that is going to, when the heart starts to open with the second breath, it's like kind of like opening up these lotus petals. The first thing that's going to clear is the stuck emotion. So that's going to on top of the heart. And then as that starts to clear out, the joy and the lightness and the love and the connection will be felt on the other side of it. So permission to let the emotions clear instead of trying to push them back down again. The energy of the heart runs through the arms into the fingertips and out of the body. So that your hands, that's why healers have these like special healing energy in their hands. It comes from the heart. So when the heart starts to open, energy flood through the arms and fingertips. So if you feel any sensation here, vibrations, tingling sensations. So if you're breathing for up to 20, 30 minutes, you'll feel energy, tinglings, vibrations. And on the rare occasion, I should say this, the hands can begin to physically claw up like a lobster claw. It can kind of like, wow, it's like strong sensations happening over here. And the mind, just let the mind know that, oh, okay, energy is clearing out. Unconsciously, a part of us wants to hold on to the energy that's clearing out.
Wow.
because a part of us might be believing that this energy is serving me. And I don't really know when to let it go.
Mm.
It's kind of like when you have a heartbreak at some part in your life, you're like, see, my heart got broken.
Mm.
I'm not opening up my heart again. I'm going to hold on to my pain.
Mm.
So it's not a conscious thing, but just know if you have strong sensation in the hands, it's a very powerful practice.
Mm.
My teacher would say it's like doing 30 years of therapy in one session. We go and we clear the stuff from the root out of your body for good.
Wow. Wow. I must say, I tried a breathwork practice and it was extremely emotional for me. I mean, I was ugly crying. And I didn't go into it with any kind of anger or any specific thing that I was worried about or stress that I was aware of. And it was extremely powerful for me in that regard. And I've actually been a little bit of afraid to go back and try it again, because just this very first time I ever tried it, it was so intense for me. So what advice do you have for me, Marlize? Because it sounds so important to me. I think that one of the things I keep thinking about is how we live every day in such a shallow breath. I find myself, going throughout the day, almost choking on my breath, like I'm not giving myself enough room to just take a nice deep breath. And so what advice do you have for those of us that are a little afraid of this practice? What might come up for me?
That's a beautiful question. And it's a very common thing that happens. It's a very human thing that happens. So what I can share with you is we're multidimensional beings. We have a body, and then we have an emotional body, all the emotions. We have a mental body or mind. We have an energetic body, a spiritual body, all these different layers. And the only part of us that gets scared in meditation is just our mind. So what's helpful for me, because it's about surrendering control. And because surrendering control means that my mind needs to be in a space where it doesn't understand what's happening and need to be okay with it. And that's hard, because our mind always has a need to know. I want to understand because then I feel safe, because then I can be in control, even though we've never been in control. But familiarity around us make us feel like we are. And that's what's been going on with the pandemic. All of a sudden, everything is shifted.
Yes.
But we've never been in control.
No.
But because everything has been, you wake up at the same day, go to your familiar restaurant, go to your gym, like all these things. It's like, well, I'm in control because I know my day.
You have the illusion of control.
The illusion of control.
Yeah.
So as you practice breathwork on a more regular basis, it will become more familiar to the mind. So you'll trust it more, you'll surrender more. So the only thing that I can say to you is, and everybody else that feels the same way, including myself, it took me a while to surrender into it too, is that little reminder. Like if anything comes, I was like, what's the sensation? Why is my hands doing this? Wow, strong emotions coming up. It's like, oh, it's just my mind. My mind is a little uncomfortable, but hey, my body's excited. My spirit's happy. It's just energy. All I'm feeling is energy, and it shows up in just a very special and unique way for me. Today I'm having these vibrations. Tomorrow I'm going to have a big cry. So it's just, if you can separate yourself from knowing, okay, it's just my mind is fearful, but everything else is excited. And that is really just energy that I'm feeling. And that it's okay, because the experience is so much bigger than our mind. So it's not going to understand it because it can't,
So unlocking curiosity, looking at it from a curious mindset, and just recognizing and being aware of the moment, but trying to not allow the fear to overwhelm us or to even to stop us in the practice. Yeah,
exactly. And it's also okay to go to move really slowly. So give yourself just a 10-minute breath. Take a break. So the breath, when you lay down on your back and do this practice, eyes are closed. You can even have a little eye pillow on, and if you feel sensation and you don't like it, it feels too uncomfortable, take the eye pillow off, open your eyes, stop the breath, and your sensation will go away immediately. You drop back and you feel like, all right, let's give it another 5 minutes. You go back and close your eyes and come back to the breath again. So you're in control of how much you want to feel and how much you want to breathe.
I love it. I loved the conversation that we started having here about this illusion of control and how really when something outside of your control comes in and changes your normal reality, how fearful that makes us. And that this breath work sounds like it can give us that resilience and strength and confidence to survive in this climate, even when things feel so out of our control, just kind of recognizing that we still have some level of being able to live in the space even without the control of outside influences on us.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so true, and there's also a reason why everything is shifting for us. It's definitely course correcting us into a space that is much greater for us, for the planet, for people around us. We lived in a reality where most of us, the world, businesses were creating division instead of unity, where it's like, it's not a win-win, it's a win-lose mentality. And so I love astrology, just looking at astrology. Certain alignments started happening beginning of last year, December, actually, just before that. So it's over a year that caused everything, all the pillars to kind of, being destroyed, like all the foundations of life, like all these things. So brings everybody to an equal space so we can kind of begin again. But it's such a uncomfortable yet rewarding way of learning that we are not in control, yet we are okay. And I think that I watched a video the other day where the guy was talking about, like, our future is empty, there's nothing there, but then we have a projection of our future, what we think is going to happen in the future, and then that projection causes fear or causes uncertainty. So in a way, we are creating our own fear around what might be.
Yes.
Because our mind wants to be in control. So our mind creates scenarios around the future, and our mind really only wants to protect us. So it's like, be careful, watch out, that might happen. So in a way, our mind is trying to protect us, but it's giving us the opposite. It's making things worse. So what I do is when my mind goes into the future, because we all do, I was like, hold on, this is a projection. The only thing that I can be in control of and that I know is real is just this moment.
Absolutely.
And finding a way to come back to your senses, or breathing through the feet, like we talked earlier, or sitting in nature and just using your senses. What colors am I seeing and what sounds am I hearing? And just bring yourself into the present moment, because the moment is really always all we have.
And in this moment, you're safe.
Always. We can always handle what's going on in the moment, even if sometimes it's uncomfortable. But we can handle it because we always get through it.
I'd love your perspective on this last year from a breathwork coach perspective. Everything that we've experienced has affected our breath this last year, from everything last summer when we had all that trauma with separation and division, and this reminder of the racism that exists in our country, and really that conversation about not being able to breathe. And then throughout this whole year with coronavirus affecting our breath and taking our breath away. And even those of us who have not yet had coronavirus, or people very close to us who have, we're all wearing masks that are limiting our breathing as well. I'd love your perspective on that in terms of what we're learning from this and what we're meant to take away from this. What's the bigger picture that we can get, the lesson that we can take so that we can leave the pain?
Yeah, that's beautiful. We all have different beliefs, and something that I believe is that the more uncomfortable, the worse, or the more crazy the world gets, lack for a better word, the more people are going to be forced or choose to have a spiritual practice.
Interesting.
So the more uncomfortable, the more we're actually moving towards enlightenment and consciousness. It's very interesting to look at it like that. So because people who would not normally want to meditate or go to therapy, or have a spiritual practice, are now kind of like, all right, last resort, let's just give this thing a try, whatever the hell it is. And then have this big opening and its big releases. And that will be the new foundation. So we're creating a new foundation within ourselves instead of like a foundation on the outside that's built on illusion or familiarity that our mind sees as control. Like going to all these different restaurants, or like I mentioned to you earlier. So we create a foundation of reality on the outside that's not really true. So what it's teaching us is to learn how to just surrender, to let go. Because when we hold on to how we want things to be or how it used to be, it's super painful, because that resistance of not wanting to let go can get physically painful. You can get sick. You can get because life is going to force you to your knees until you let go. But the minute you let go, it's still going to be uncomfortable. But then finally, you're going to be drifted into the direction you're supposed to be in. And so through taking on that yoga practice or that meditation practice or listening to a podcast, you begin to have a new mindset. And then new communities are forming, because now we're creating a unity. So you see groups of people coming together in like a common cause. The whole world is fighting for a common cause. So it's actually unifying us in a different way, because it's the only way we're gonna heal and move forward. We can't move forward on our own individually, because it's not going to work. Not the new reality, the new age we're in. So what it's trying to teach us is like we're all in this together. So then having groups of people that can remind you, oh, ground within yourself. The foundation's right here, and having that support system on the outside. So the bigger picture of all of that is that. And then saying that through the breath that I teach, when the heart starts to open up, there is a sense of positivity, optimism, connection that you can feel that's much, much deeper than actually somebody being physically in your space. So we're learning connection and unity in a way that we've never done before. And when the heart starts to open as well, because, we humans, we want to protect our heart by keeping it closed. Like, I'm protecting my heart, I'm going to close my heart. But then we don't feel love and joy and connection. So what we do is we look for it on the outside. Am I lovable? Am I good enough? Can you connect with me? Can you all these things? And the temporary satisfactions, addictions, and things like that. So when the heart starts to open through the breath, you begin to you feel stronger. And you're like, oh, I feel filled up. I feel joyful within myself. I don't need this person to give that to me.
Fulfilled. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And you begin to remember who you are. There's a level of self-worth that comes through, because now you're connected to your heart and your soul and your purpose of why you're here. When we close our hearts, we don't know who we are anymore. So there's so much there of like being connected to your heart.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And breath, where at least taking a deep breath for me also makes me very present in the moment, which, as you mentioned earlier, is the only reality.
Yeah, because the breath only lives in the present reality.
Wow.
So it brings you into the moment. And the yoga lineage, we can direct our mind by the way we breathe. So if your mind is scattered, a lot of times if you're stressed and your mind's like 100 miles an hour, you're breathing, hyperventilating up here. So if you start to regulate your breath and breathe through your feet, take a few of those long breaths, expand your belly, poke your belly out with a big belly breath as well, because now you open the lower chakras, it helps to ground you. So getting that deeper breath in, you'll find your mind begin to slow down too.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
How have you seen changes in yourself? So you've been doing this for a decade and a half now, but how have you seen changes in yourself looking back in terms of your tolerance of stress and anxiety and overwhelm?
Yeah, I have to admit it really changed my life. And
Wow.
I want to say particularly breathwork yoga as well, but kind of like in an instant. My life took a 180 in like a matter of 6 months. I was going through a big transition. I was like, I'm moving back to South Africa. I'm done with LA. Like LA is just bad for me. And I walked into a classroom with my teacher and I was like, what is this? vibrations and lightness and joy. I laughed. My teacher would sometimes say, you feel legally high or legally drunk on it. Because
Wow.
when the heart opens, you can literally just feel like, feel so light and so good. Yeah, it taught me a lot about who I am. I was very confused as a child growing up. It's like, who am I? What are my gifts? I've always felt really different. It gave me a level of understanding my gifts and who I am and what's my purpose. Bringing me back to myself and teaching me about how to be grounded in my body instead of checked out and ungrounded, spacey. Teaching me more about being empathic and knowing that I need to preserve my energy because I'm like a sponge. I just absorb everything around me, and I don't really know where the world around me begins and where I end. And breathwork is a great way to wake you up to your own energetic frequency. So you eventually begin to learn, okay, what's mine and what's not. And when I feel energy from other people, or when I take energy on, when I don't feel like myself. But you can't really figure that boundary out unless you spend enough time in something like breathwork, where you get to know yourself, where you know what does it feel like to be grounded? What does it feel like to be clear? You know, what's my frequency? And then you can learn that energetic boundaries, which is a lifelong journey.
It really is. It really is. And I appreciate that you said we all have different sensitivities. In that regard, many of my listeners are in the medical field and in the healing field. And it's fascinating to me that we don't learn more of this in medicine and dentistry and physical therapy and chiropractor, because so much of what we do is give away so much of our energy. And so in terms of breathing, I keep thinking of exhaling, and never learning how to take that nice, deep, restorative inhale so that we're able to give again. So I love that you're also expressing how, we have to be careful with those boundaries and being able to understand where my responsibility ends and yours begins.
Especially as givers, it's hard to, shouldn't put it out there that it's hard to, but in general, it's been hard for me to learn how to also to be on the receiving end, because when we want to receive, we also have to be open for it. And for most of us, being open can be scary. Like, I'm exposed, I'm vulnerable. Like, what if I'm open to receive love? And then what if I'm opening up, ready to receive love, and this person's not there? And this is emptiness, right? Or this person's going to say something or do something mean or whatever it is. So receiving is scary for most people. So we're so comfortable giving.
Absolutely. Oh, that's so cool. You talk a lot about, you've mentioned the word birthright a few times. And for those in my audience who haven't figured it out yet, that Marlize is from South Africa and I'm from South Africa as well. So I have this great, strong pull to go back to Africa every now and then. Do you have that same feeling where you just got to get
all the
back?
time?
I'll get these moments, and it's been difficult this past year where we haven't been able to travel so much, but I get this yearning to go back and just feel the soil, the sand underneath my feet, and, see the expanse. But when was the last time you were there, Marlize?
It was probably about 5 years ago. I went back for friends' wedding.
Nice.
I'm from Pretoria, which is the capital of South Africa. I grew up on a farm close to the Kruger Park for quite a while, and I moved to the city eventually, and then I left when I was kind of 18 and back and forth. And I went back in 5 years. It was lovely. We were like in Stellenbosch wine country. They got married there. It was beautiful. I was supposed to go back last year. I got a flight booked, I think around April, which I had to cancel. It's really disappointing. And it is what it is, so hopefully this year will bring some changes. I know my astrologer was saying that around April, things will start coming back together again for the world. So I'm like, I hope he's right.
Yeah, we'll go with that. We'll go with that for now. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Do you still have strong ties in South Africa?
I do.
Mm.
I do. And I know you mentioned the zebra
Yeah.
painting behind you. When my dad adopted two baby zebras
Oh,
a while ago. I think the mom died or something. This was quite a while ago. So he was like um, spoon feeding them, and they were just the cutest little thing. So he actually had to fence up his home because they're very curious, and they get in and they shove their noses into like the windows and stuff like that, you know. But it was so fascinating. I took a guy down there that I was with after the South African guy. He was American, and I remember he was looking around. It's like, so you have a conversation. All of a sudden, you see these two zebras just walking straight past you, and he's like, let's have a photo of the zebras. So I was sitting in the meditation with the two zebras right behind me, and I was like,
oh.
what's this? Okay, sure, let's have a photo, but not realizing what a special moment it is, because I'm like,
Mm.
I grew up there, you know, wild animals, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
It's not such a big deal for me.
Marlize, I'm hearing you're fully Americanized because you called them zebras and not zebras.
Zebras. Yeah.
Oh, so much fun. So much fun. Oh, well, this is so great. I'm so excited to know you. I really hope to continue this conversation again. This is just a little glimpse into your expertise, and I'm so grateful for it. Where can we find you? You mentioned your website to us, but how can we find you on social media if we want to follow you there?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. It's been so lovely as well. Yeah, so social media is also my first and last name, and it's got like an underscore before my first and last name. So on Instagram, so it's Marlize underscore Joubert. Joubert.
Yeah. Uh,
Yeah, so it's MIRLIZE underscore JOUBERT. So that's Instagram, and it will be kind of the same thing on Facebook as well. So yeah, I do private healing sessions, like one-on-one sessions. You could do that virtual or in person. If you're in Santa Monica, I'm still doing in-person sessions. Not a lot, but I do a few. I sit in the garden, and so breath work is it's a pretty profound and powerful modality. So holding space for you in this time, you know, can be pretty effective. Is that something
mhm.
you want? And the breathwork trainings as well. So learning about breath and energy and chakras and crystals and grounding and holding space and what holding space means. And the second module is we go deeper into the healing. So we work with abuse and addiction and grief
Mm.
and loss and lineage healing. We go a little deeper. And then the third module is about relationships, relating, boundaries, and the healing a lot of stuff around like gender specific, you know, all kinds of traumas and false beliefs and things, you know. So it's really jam packed with a lot of stuff. So yeah, it's all on my website.
Wonderful. How has that been for you, changing your therapeutic technique to an online presence and doing things remotely? Is that different for you in terms of working with your clients?
Yeah, you know, it's something that I've actually wanted to do for a while.
Oh,
Before we got started, like forced into it.
no.
I was leading a training in person beginning of last year at an unplugged meditation, and we had a really beautiful big group. Second training was in March, and a lot of people signed up to, and then I had to move from in person to virtual, but in an instant. Like it was
Yeah.
literally 2 or 3 days with the lockdowns and stuff. And I definitely had a few freak out moments where mine's like, oh, I don't know if I can do it. A big responsibility for all these people
Yeah.
showing up, and like,
Yeah.
am I going to figure this stuff out just on the fly? It was it was an easy transition.
Mm.
I like doing virtual work as well because intuition almost feels stronger because it's
Wow.
less of a distraction of the person actually here. So you really have to feel into your intuition more.
Wow.
And for me, it can actually sometimes be stronger.
Wow.
I do miss people being in person. I do miss the community and the hugs and just all of that, of course, you know, but
Yeah.
virtual works.
You mentioned intuition, and it reminded me of a question I did want to ask you, and that is, and maybe this is a broader question, but how can people tap into their own intuition more? I think that's something that so many of us want to be able to do. So what are some examples of resources for tapping into your own intuition?
What a beautiful question. It's a fun thing to do. It's all about visualization and just being
Hmm.
creative and having fun with it.
Hmm.
So asking yourself these different questions, as I go to the market and pick up two apples and be like, look, which one's going to be the sweetest? Intuition, whatever. And you just pick one and you take both home and you try it out, or if the phone rings, you're like, who can that be? Or if you think of somebody, it's like, oh, is it this person thought of me or did I think about them? So you just ask yourself these open-ended questions. You don't have to have answers for it, but just beginning to explore with curiosity and playfulness. So, start with little things, making little choices, like the apple's not like a big life-altering thing the first time. And meditation, breathwork practices,
Hmm.
as our heart starts to open up, you will have more intuitive, just aha moments will come through. Like, whoa,
Hmm.
why haven't I thought about that earlier?
Hmm.
You just begin to be like, where did this answer come from?
Hmm.
So self-inquiry, just practice, but make it fun and playful. Any spiritual practices will help to open that too. Your heart needs to be more open for you to be able to receive information, because intuition are being received, and so the energy of the mind goes out. So if your mind's very active, it's going to block intuition from coming in. So the quieter the mind is, the better it is to. And I find doing like mindless stuff, like you're laying under a tree or going for a walk, that's usually where the information comes in, not when you're like sitting in a desk and trying to figure it out, because that's
Hmm.
mostly mind stuff.
The shower. That's where it happens for me.
The shower. That's amazing. It makes sense. They say that anything you do repetitively quiets the
Ah.
chatter of the mind and opens up to the consciousness. So
Mm,
taking a drive, going
mm,
for a walk,
mm,
washing the dishes, sweeping the floor, taking a shower.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
So I have three final questions for you, Marlize.
Okay.
My first question, I think I already know the answer to, but I want to hear it from you. What is your superpower?
Hmm. Um, I feel compassion.
Mm,
Yeah, compassion. I just have my default compassion.
mm,
I just have compassion for the world and for people.
mm,
And I feel like they can see it and feel it,
mm.
so holding that container for people. Yeah, yeah.
I love it. And so, question number two is, what is your definition of happiness?
Wow, my definition of happiness. Uh, Gosh, it is. Yeah, it feels like it's an overflow of just a lightness and a joy that's flowing through my body, just feeling weightless, almost want to laugh uncontrollably, just being in flow, um, feeling a sense of freedom, um, kind of feeling in sync, on par, on my own path.
Mm.
Yeah.
I love that you brought it all right back again to our bodies and to
Hmm.
ourselves, and to honoring that inner part of you that isn't
Hmm.
defined by other people or by outside influences, but truly only true to yourself.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love
Thank
that.
you.
Love that. Thank you. All right. And the last question is, if all these modules that you spent so much time on and your beautiful website and all the trainings that you've done were to disappear, I'm sorry to do that to you, but if everything were to disappear and you had all of us on headphones for 30 seconds and the whole world was listening to your message for 30 seconds, what is
Mm.
one message that you could leave us with?
Mm. Beautiful. Yeah, a message that I would leave you guys all with is, what do people gain by being around you?
Hmm.
So it's kind of like, who are you? Like, what is your essence?
Hmm.
And what do you bring to the world that is just you? So it's kind of like having a mirror reflection of who you truly are, because sometimes we forget who we are. We focus so much on other people. So it's more like, what is your gift?
Mm.
And sometimes the way for us to figure out what our gift really truly is by recognizing how we affect people around us, like what we bring to the world. And it doesn't have to be like a specific word or a thinking. It can just be a feeling. You can see how people respond and what they get from you, and just it can just be a feeling.
Mm.
Yeah.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much. Thank you for spending this time with me. I am so grateful to you.
You're so welcome. This was lovely.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for all that you do. I can just imagine there's so many people who are benefiting enormously from you. And I'm so excited for my audience to know of you as well and to reach out to you. And I'm so envious of you. I mentioned earlier of your short sleeves in California, as I'm cold here in Maine. But thank you again, Marlize. And thank you to all of you for listening to this episode. I hope that you got as much incredible new insight as I did. And I look forward to hearing from you and hearing all the tidbits that you got from this episode. So please let me know. And remember, you can just look in the show notes to find out the exact links of how to find Marlize. And I'm going to ask her if we can also have access, Marlize, if you'll be able to give us links to David Elliott as well. We'd love to learn more about him as well.
Yeah. So it's just his name. It's davidelliott.com. It's 2 L's and 2 T's and his last name.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you.
You're so welcome. Yeah.
Well, thank you again. And remember, today is going to be a great day. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.